Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got an absolutely dramatic story that's going to leave you shook. We're talking about a marriage built on lies, a husband who gave everything, and a wife who chose the wrong guy. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this ends. So grab your snacks, hit that like button, and let's dive in. Picture this, you're getting married to the person of your dreams. It's supposed to be the happiest day of your life. But instead of wedding vows, your bride hands you divorce papers. That's exactly what happened to our main character, Gu Jingshan. On his actual wedding day, his new wife Liu Ruyan coldly handed him a contract. 3 years, that's all they agreed to. 3 years of marriage, then divorce. Why? Because she needed to become the head of her family's business empire, and being married would help her secure that position. But here's the kicker, she was still in love with someone else. A guy named Shire Duan. Can you imagine the pain? Standing there in your wedding suit, knowing your wife doesn't love you, knowing she's just using you. But Gu Jingshan signed anyway, because despite everything, he was hopelessly, desperately in love with her. For 3 years, he played the perfect husband. He woke up early every morning to cook her favorite meals. He learned how to give her shoulder massages after her long work days. He waited up for her no matter how late she came home. He remembered every little detail about her. She didn't like red roses, she was allergic to peanuts, she preferred quiet evenings over loud parties. He transformed himself into exactly what she needed. And you know what? For a while it actually seemed to work. She started noticing him. She'd bring him small gifts from her business trips. When he caught a cold, she'd make him medicine. Sometimes late at night, she'd even curl up beside him, her hand resting on his waist. He started to believe maybe, just maybe, she was falling for him too. Maybe those 3 years wouldn't end in divorce. Maybe she'd choose him. But then Shire Duan came back. The moment her ex-boyfriend returned, everything changed. Liu Ruyan practically abandoned her husband. She was canceling important business meetings just to go shopping with Shire Duan. She was pushing back critical deadlines because he was feeling sad. Gu Jingshan would stand by the window, watching her car speed off to Shire Duan's apartment, and finally understood the brutal truth. No matter how much he gave, no matter how perfect he was, he could never compete. He was just a placeholder. A temporary husband, until the real love came back. The 3-year contract was ending. It was time to go. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no, it gets so much worse. Shire Duan's mother suddenly fell critically ill. She needed a bone marrow transplant immediately. Liu Ruyan's team searched everywhere for a match, and guess what they found? Gu Jingshan was a perfect match. Now here's where it gets really messed up. Liu Ruyan didn't ask him, she didn't plead with him or explain the situation. She dragged him to the hospital and basically demanded he sign the consent form for an extremely risky surgery. She didn't see him as her husband. She didn't see him as a person. She saw him as a tool to save her true love's mother. Standing in that hospital corridor, watching her pace anxiously while Shire Duan sat crying beside her, Gu Jingshan felt something inside him die. He signed the papers. Every stroke of the pen felt like cutting into his own heart. And when she rushed into the surgery room, she didn't even look back at him once. Not once. While waiting for the surgery to finish, Gu Jingshan had to sit there and listen to Shire Duan brag about how much Liu Ruyan loved him. And this is where our guy learned some devastating truths. Remember those special moments he thought were for him? The time Liu Ruyan said she was on a business trip for 3 days. She actually flew to Paris to buy Shire Duan a limited edition watch he'd casually mentioned wanting. The Christmas night when she was unusually affectionate. She'd spent the whole night standing outside Shire Duan's apartment in the snow because he'd posted about being sad, but she was too afraid to knock on the door. Every single tender moment, every act of kindness Gu Jingshan thought was finally meant for him, it was all for someone else. His entire 3-year marriage was built on a lie. He wasn't the husband. He was just the backup plan. But wait, it gets even worse. Gu Jingshan's mother-in-law found out the couple still didn't have children after 3 years of marriage. She was furious. She summoned him to the study and literally beat him with a rattan cane soaked in salt water, a traditional family punishment. She shoved fertility drugs at him and demanded he take them. He refused. For the first time, he stood up for himself. He told her he wouldn't bring a child into a loveless marriage. He wouldn't let her use him as a breeding tool. The beating was brutal, but he didn't give in. He was done being controlled. Then came Liu Ruyan's birthday party, the event Gu Jingshan had been planning for months. He knew everything about her preferences. He ordered a black forest cake without peanuts. He decorated with white roses instead of red. He made sure the menu avoided everything she was allergic to. For 3 years, he'd been the one organizing her birthday parties because her own parents didn't even know she was allergic to peanuts. At the party, guests brought expensive gifts, jewelry, designer bags, luxury items worth fortunes. Gu Jingshan had spent 3 months searching across multiple countries to find a limited edition diamond necklace. Only 10 existed in the world. It was perfect for her. Then Shire Duan presented his gift, a handmade wool scarf. And I mean handmade, the stitches were crooked, the knitting was clumsy, it was obviously made by an amateur. The guests started laughing. Someone made a joke about how cheap it was. Another guest wondered how someone so poorly dressed got into such an upscale party. Shire Duan's face went white with humiliation. And Liu Ruyan? She immediately defended him. She picked up that ugly scarf and wrapped it around her neck, declaring that handmade gifts have more heart than expensive jewelry. Then, in front of everyone, she took Gu Jingshan's precious diamond necklace, the one he'd spent months hunting down, and threw it in the trash can. The entire party went silent. She chose the cheap scarf over the diamond necklace. She chose Shire Duan's feelings over her husband's love. In that moment, Gu Jingshan realized his heart had been completely consumed. There was nothing left. But Shire Duan wasn't done humiliating him. Later, he accidentally ruined a precious cashmere scarf, the only thing Gu Jingshan had left from his late grandmother. When Gu Jingshan confronted him, Shire Duan had the audacity to offer him $30 as compensation. $30 for an irreplaceable family heirloom. Gu Jingshan slapped him, hard. Liu Ruyan arrived just then, and what did she do? Did she ask what happened? Did she listen to her husband's side? No, she immediately rushed to Shire Duan, gently touching his reddened cheek, her eyes full of Chinese letter, heartache for HIM. When Gu Jingshan tried to explain that the scarf was from his grandmother, that it was irreplaceable, Liu Ruyan just pulled out her checkbook. She started writing checks, throwing them at him one after another, increasing the amount each time, treating his pain like a transaction that could be bought and sold. That was it, the final straw. Gu Jingshan took the last check. He looked at her with eyes that had gone completely cold and said, "This check is enough for the scarf and for our 3-year marriage." He signed the divorce papers right there. He walked out of the mansion into the pouring rain. He didn't look back. For the first time in 3 years, he was free. He disappeared completely, changed his number, left everything behind except his ID and a bank card with his own savings. All the expensive clothes, the luxury watches she'd bought him, he left it all. He wanted a clean start. He reached out to an old college friend, Meng Tan, who ran a design studio. Remember, before the marriage, Gu Jingshan had been a talented designer with dreams of making it big. But during those 3 years, he'd completely abandoned his passion to be the perfect house husband. Now he was ready to create again. He threw himself into his work. He designed day and night. His style was unique, combining classical elegance with modern minimalism. His Galaxy collection was breathtaking. Within months, he was winning internal competitions at the studio. Then came the news that changed everything. His Galaxy collection was selected for an international design exhibition in Paris. This was his dream, to showcase his work on the international stage, and it was finally happening. Under the pseudonym JS, he became a rising star in the fashion world. He was finally living for himself. Meanwhile, Liu Ruyan's life was falling apart. Without Gu Jingshan managing everything behind the scenes, her business started collapsing. Projects were losing millions. Partners were withdrawing investments. The company's cash flow was critical. And then she discovered the truth about Shire Duan. Her mother found bank transfer records showing that Shire Duan had been embezzling money from the company. He'd used company funds to buy a private island. He'd purchased luxury cars and expensive jewelry, all with Liu Ruyan's money. When her mother confronted him, she had such a severe heart attack that she ended up in the hospital on life support. The board of directors turned on Liu Ruyan. They were furious that she'd protected Shire Duan while the company bled money. They demanded answers. They wanted him arrested. But here's the thing, Shire Duan had covered his tracks well. The overseas accounts couldn't be traced back to him. He'd set up shell companies in the Cayman Islands. There was no evidence. Liu Ruyan was trapped. She'd chosen the wrong guy, and now it was destroying everything. One night, alone in her office, she was flipping through a design magazine when she froze. There on the page was a stunning collection by a designer named J.S. The style, the lines, the attention to detail, it was exactly like the sketches Gu Jingshan used to draw when he thought she wasn't looking. Her hands started shaking. She called her assistant and demanded they investigate this designer J.S. immediately. The assistant reported back. J.S. was a newcomer who'd been making waves in the design world. His work was being featured in international exhibitions. And get this, he was currently in Paris for a design show. Liu Ruyan's heart pounded. She had to know. She had her team dig deeper, and finally they found it, a photo from the Paris exhibition. A man in a perfectly tailored black suit, standing confidently in front of his designs, looking more handsome and successful than she'd ever seen him. It was Gu Jingshan, her ex-husband, the man she'd thrown away. The realization hit her like a freight train. All those times he'd stayed up late working on company documents, he'd been writing her love letters. All those times she thought he was just being a dutiful husband, he'd been pouring his heart into caring for her while she chased someone else. And now he was gone, successful, happy, without her. She tried to find him, but he'd vanished completely. No address, no phone number, no social media. He'd erased himself from her life entirely. The night before the Paris exhibition, she couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about him, his gentle eyes, the way he'd cared for her, the pain she'd caused. She finally called her assistant at 2 a.m. and demanded they find Gu Jingshan's location. They found his new apartment, a small, old building with no elevator, nothing like the luxury mansion she'd lived in. She couldn't believe he was living there. The man who'd had everything at his fingertips was now living in a tiny apartment. She went to his door and knocked. When he opened it, he looked different, simpler, wearing casual clothes, his hair unstyled, but somehow more attractive than before. There was a confidence about him now, a piece she'd never seen when they were married. She tried to talk to him, but he was cold, distant. He told her their contract marriage was over, that he'd moved on. When she asked why he wouldn't cash her checks, he said something that cut deep. "I don't want to take anything that has your touch." He didn't want her money. He didn't want anything from her. He wanted a clean break. She tried to assert that he was still the Liu family son-in-law, that he couldn't just leave. But he laughed, actually laughed, and asked her what right she had to keep him. They were divorced. He was free. Her phone rang. It was Shire Duan, of course, whining that he couldn't sleep and needed her to come home. Even now, even after everything, she was still running to him. Gu Jingshan just smiled that cold smile and said, "Your true love is looking for you." She hung up on Shire Duan and tried to grab Gu Jingshan's chin to force him to look at her, to see her. She told him it wasn't over, that he couldn't just walk away. But he just wiped away a single tear and said nothing. She left, slamming the door so hard the pictures on the wall shook. In her car, she finally broke down. She didn't understand why she was so upset. She'd gotten what she wanted, the divorce, freedom to be with Shire Duan. So why did her heart feel so empty? She kept seeing Gu Jingshan's face, calm, composed, completely over her, and it terrified her. The next morning, she got a message from Shire Duan asking when she was coming home. She looked at it and felt nothing, just emptiness. She closed her eyes, and all she could see was Gu Jingshan's indifferent expression. She turned off her phone. Back in Paris, Gu Jingshan was preparing for his exhibition. He'd cut off all contact with his past life. He was living for himself now, creating art, pursuing his dreams. He was finally happy. And Liu Ruyan. She was alone in her mansion, surrounded by luxury, with everything she'd said she wanted, and she'd never felt more empty. She finally understood what she'd lost, but it was too late. He was gone. Wow, just wow. Can you believe she treated him like that for 3 years? And the moment he's successful and happy without her, suddenly she wants him back. Too late, girl. What do you think? Should Gu Jingshan give her another chance? Or is she getting exactly what she deserves? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this recap, smash that like button, subscribe for more dramatic stories, and I'll see you in the next video.